all our preachers in this church, we don't like to just give words that come from ourselves. Even it might be a blessing, and if we speak from the Word of God, it can be a blessing anyway to someone. But we want from God to receive that word. Amen. And so I receive the word like quite in advance usually, as I'm not speaking so often. So I get it, and then a few weeks before, and then someone says something. Oh, okay. And then someone answers something, and someone answers something. And so it's like, okay, I got it. So you might hear the one or the other thing that you have heard in the past weeks. It's sort of, it came out like a summary of the last week's preaching. So actually, on Tuesday evening, we were on our way with my husband Pietro to the rehearsal, and we got a problem with our car. It was about to start snowing, and what we found out in the last weeks is that there was like some dirt in the tank, something like that, and we needed to put some product in to clear it, because otherwise it was just like this all the time. It was to start at some point, it would not stop. And so on Tuesday, it just got really bad. We were not able to go on like a little hill. It was just going down, slowing down. Somebody started reading through, I don't know how you say that word in English, but Rucker, we say in German. So it was just really not normal. So at some point we drove out, and so we stopped at the gas station. And like, what do we do? Already in my mind I was thinking, people are standing in front of the door, it's cold outside, it started to snow. If not someone else comes with the key, they're standing in front in the cold. So Lord, please help us. So we just turned on again, and we said, okay, even if we get there slowly, but we get there, hopefully. So I recalled actually the girl, because she was also needed some gas in her car, so she stopped there, and I said, girl, please pray that we get there. So we went back on the highway, and quite slowly, very slowly, but we arrived. We got here, it was like, okay, at least that. So, what if the car would have stopped? I mean, that's what came to my mind. What if the car stops now? What would you usually do?
Call the ACL?
Yeah, either if you're very good with cars yourself, you try to see if you can somehow fix it. But at least, even if the car was just going down, that was going slowly, but it was going. So what happens if the car stops? And what happens if this happens in our lives? I'm not speaking in your lives in sort of in sense of your car stops, but if you stop in your life, if what happens to our car starts to happen in your life. So 2016 I preached about a desert detour. At that point I spoke about that God sometimes allows us to not stay on what we would think the normal path, but we have to do a detour, and as Israel did when they were walking to the promised land, and they were quite long in that period. And sometimes God allows us to go these detours because He wants us to teach something. He wants us to walk through a specific season where we can learn, where we can grow, where we can understand certain things that we need to get into the next level of our life. But today, I'm not speaking about this season of a detour where we are in to learn. I'm speaking about when we stop, when we just get stuck in our lives. Because of the pressures of everyday life, we know it, work, our finances, our families, things that happen just around us, school with children, so many things, health, relationships. We can just see so often people getting into depression or having just these worries, discouragement, discontentment. We just see it all the time, again and again. And sometimes things happen just slowly. They just sneak in. And here you know, I guess, that this is one of the biggest strategies of the enemy. He just sneaks in, very subtle, so that you don't even notice that you're actually slowing down until you're actually stopped at some point. And sometimes thing happens and we know that we're stuck. But somehow it is hard to get out. And the same thing, it is true in the spiritual stalemate. Sometimes things overwhelm us just in our lives that we get stuck. So we have a saying in German that says, insight is the first step of recovery, of improvement. I don't know if that saying says something to you. It means that to be able to get better, you need to start recognizing that something is wrong. If you're not recognizing something is wrong, why do you need to fix something? So this is the first step, to recognize that something is wrong. So sometimes if we get into this situation, we should ask ourselves, what caused me to just be stuck now? What made me stop? We try to identify the cause. And most of the times we're quite aware of where the problem lies. So, in terms of the broken car, the first thing that you were trying to do, as we said before, if you're very handy, very good with technology and with stuff and with cars, you would try to stop, open the hood, and try to see if you can fix it yourself. And see if it just makes it run. If you're like me, that has no clue of cars, whatever, so you would just call Automobiles Club, you know? So you just call for help, someone that comes and check out what the problem is. But the bottom line is, as long as you don't fix the problem, you cannot move forward. You're just stuck. If you cannot fix the problem, you're stuck. You will not go anywhere. So, sometimes we get just overwhelmed by things that happen in our lives, experiences that overwhelm us. It's some things that just are so violent to us in our lives. Sometimes it's loss of people, sometimes it's just broken relationships, or people that we trusted, disappointment, sometimes just whatever it is that sometimes it just comes, it's there, and it's not even our fault in that moment, but it just strikes us like that, and you have the impression you're not even able to stand on your feet anymore. And sometimes it's just the busyness of time, the busyness of life. We just get lost. So if I can ask my few helpers from the worship team, I would like to show you something. We know that the Bible tells us, the Bible is clear about it. You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. I need some more. This is a very short gate. And yeah, so can I have one more person? Just come up here. So is this just to I need one more person. I need a gate. Okay, please stand. So this is just to make it a visual, yeah? Because many times we hear about that verse in the Bible where it says it's a narrow gate. And the highway to hell is broad. So sometimes when we go through that gate, it feels like that. Goodness.
Don't break the gate.
Doesn't it? No one feels ever like that? Yes. Oh my goodness, just me then. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So sometimes it just feels like that. You feel squeezed. You feel like you're trying to push it through very hard, but it feels like you can hardly breathe. You just get so in between of things that you think, I'll never make it through. I'll never make it through. And sometimes, so you have to be very creative now. This is the mountain. I couldn't bring all of the things on my couch, so I'm sorry. Just think of a very... We have another one in the crowd. They're very good, can you imagine? So we just walk our way, and then we find this huge mountain in front of us, and we just think, okay, there's no way around. Okay. And we sit down. And then we think, okay, let's just first sit down to think. Let's just reflect. What can I do? And then we just stay a little longer because we cannot see any solution by ourselves in that problem. And then we sit even a bit longer. And then at some point, we just get comfortable. We stay here and we think that, well, cannot take it away. And then we just accept that that mountain is so big that I cannot get over it. And that's what is happening many times in our lives. We just get stuck. So what can we do about it? You know that I'm a person of things. If I get in front of something, I need to right away find the solution. Is there something that I can do about my situation? Well, first of all, like I said before, if the car is broken, we try first to see if we are able to fix it. We analyze and we evaluate our situation. So as I said before, let's try to identify the problem. And sometimes we know where the problem lies. We know exactly where it comes from. But we're just not managing to get over it. Sometimes it's just sin that comes into our lives. Sneaking in sometimes as well, and sometimes it's just there. And then we get so ashamed, and we just get so, cannot, this unforgiveness thing. We cannot just go to God and just stand in front of Him and ask Him for forgiveness. And so we just stay there, not doing anything. In Psalm 32:8 it says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Have we asked God if the direction we were walking is still the right one that He wants us to walk? Do we just slow down sometimes and try, before we move, listen to God's word? Sometimes it's just, I know how it is as being a mom, a wife, and pastors working as well. Sometimes we say in the morning, we know exactly in the morning, we're focused, okay, I have to do this, in that direction, good. And then you start. And then you get, I have to do it. And there's another call. And then you go, and on your way, you get everywhere except of where you're supposed to go. And this is the exact strategy of the enemy. He gets you so busy. If it's physical, you just get things in front. This week was just, I didn't take any appointment, or not many, just a few, to make sure that I get time to prepare for preaching. You cannot imagine how many distractions I had this week. It's just incredible, but it's normal. It's completely normal. I knew it would come. But just to say, I had to work at night because I'm not able to do it during the day. Because whenever I sit down, something else, okay. And then if I sit down, somehow I cannot focus, and then something again. I had to work at night. But I worked. So this is how the enemy is doing things. He's just bringing in all the time something to just get you distracted. And at some point, you get where am I supposed to go actually? What was the first way I was actually needing to take? And sometimes, because I put it, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. The Lord is telling us here, if you ask me, I can tell you where to go. But then, you need to walk. He tells you, this is the way. Here you need to go. This is what you need to do. So now, go. And we are and we don't do anything sometimes. Sometimes the Lord is asking action from us. In James 2:24, we know this verse very well. is this next one. So you see, you are shown to be right with God by what we do, not by faith alone. This is actually the main thing that I had on my heart for today. And it might sound a bit harsh, and excuse myself if I'm touching someone straight and it hurts. But sometimes we can pray as much as we want. Nothing will happen if we don't move. The Lord is giving you tools. The Lord is reaching out your hand many times. Here, come on, my daughter, my son, grab my hand, I'll help you out. And we're like, no clue, no idea. We're not seeing anything. We're just so desperate in our situation that we cannot recognize even that Lord's hand is just in front of us. And we just don't do anything. We're just stuck there. And there are a lot of examples in the Bible that can teach us actually both. I mean, I think it was my first or my second preaching ever here in church about Jehoshaphat. It is in 2 Chronicles 20. And it is the story about where Israel, they're in a situation where a lot of armies of the enemies are about to get to them. And they're like millions. And Israel is in minority. And what do? They say, first, let us pray. Let us kneel down. Let's seek the face of God. They kneel down. What does the Lord tell them? You will not have to fight this battle. Take up your position, stand firm, and see the deliverance the Lord will give you. This is sometimes all it needs. But the first step was to pray, and the second was to listen. What is God saying? Don't do anything, okay? I don't need to do anything. That is fine. I just wait and see that the Lord is taking my battles. Because it means that we're at some point where I cannot continue. It's more than what I can do is required. The Lord has to intervene and do something His own way that we're not able to do it. So we just watch. But sometimes the Lord is asking us to do things. I was still not doing it. How many times God asked the people to do some actions of faith in the Bible? Just a few examples. The March of Jericho is one of the most known things that God asked them to do something that really made no sense. Walking around the city 7 times or one time, and then for 7 days, 7 times around. This was just crazy, it made no sense. But they had to obey because it was what God told them. So they did it. And what happened? What happened?
The walls fell down.
The walls fell. Naaman, when Elisha told him that he has to go into the river to get healed from his leper. He had to go into the river and bath himself 7 times. Does that make any sense? No. It was unhealable sickness at that time. People would just die at some point from it. He didn't want to, of course, first. He said, this is crazy. But then the servant said, well, what do you have to lose? Just try it. If it doesn't work, well, at least you've tried. He went, after the 7th time, he came out, healed. Amen. So he would have missed that healing if he would not have obeyed. Even if it sounds like the most stupid thing to do. Even Jesus asked the disciple to feed the people. You know, when they were gathered there and it was already getting evening, and the disciples asked him, Jesus, we need to feed them. Let's send them home. And what did Jesus say? You feed them. Okay, what do we do now? So this was a big action of faith, to just pray for the food and just believe that it would just somehow, feed everyone and make everyone full. And this example that Nestor spoke about at the end of the year, I just loved it. I didn't know about that story, when they had these vouchers of the work of the food washers in their pocket, and every time he was sticking out, there was more and more coming out. This is action of faith. Can I have the next? Don't ask God to guide your footsteps if you're not willing to move your feet. I love this. this phrase. How many times we ask God to move, but we're not willing to move anything. We're not willing to step out in faith and do something. We must move from knowing God's promise to believe the promise, to actually taking hold of the promise through obedient action in order to make it a reality in our lives. It's not enough to not just know that, yeah, God gave me a promise, that's nice, that's fine. Do we believe in that promise? And then if we do, are we able to just take it into our lives? Or just does it stay in the Bible? I mean, it's written in the Bible, it's good there. But are we able to apply it, take that blessing into our lives? Second point, ask for help. This is something that all over my life I've been seeing. We have seen now many different churches over the years, when we have been first in my own church before I got married, then in the Italian church, then we went to Bible school, and there we have seen many, many churches as we were traveling and doing ministry there. So this is something that I see over and over again. The strategy of the enemy to make the Christians believe, you should not tell anyone that you have a problem. Don't say it. How are they going to look at you if they know that you have a problem and you know? Have you not heard lately how many Christian young people and also older people are suiciding because they're not telling anyone that they have depression? Have you not heard the news? How many people, and they were shocked, like, no one knew about it. Yes, why? Because it's still a taboo. As a Christian, you're not allowed to have any problem. You're not allowed to be sick. You're not allowed to struggle with anything in your life that is like overwhelming you. And then if something happens, if we get like just at the end of our strength, and then we get, oh, what happened? Why did we not know? People, we have to stop giving in to that lie of the enemy. Amen. Jesus died on the cross for us. He has washed us clean. But we're not perfect. We are perfect through his blood. But still, we're humans. And we struggle with things. So if you have a problem in your life that you notice you cannot deal with it by yourself, well, why do you think we're all in here? This is your family. Just look around. Behind you, just next to you. This is your brother, this is your sister. They're here to help you. They're here to just, whenever you walk by yourself and you just think, I'm all by myself. You can't be surrounded by so many people and still be isolated, still be by yourself. At least that's the feeling you get. And that's exactly why community, church, is so important. Whenever you get into a trouble, in a situation where you think, oh, this is just bigger than me, I'm not able to get out of that. Ask your brother, share with your sister. You don't have to give all the details if you don't want to, but at least ask, cry out for help. And they come and they surround you, they grab your arm and they walk with you. These are extensions of Jesus. Your brother, your sister is extension of Jesus. That's why we're here for. It's not just to come together to make a nice choir and to sing and then to go back home. This is family. If you're in struggle, turn around to someone. I'm not saying you should just stop at the door, everyone, and ask them to do something. I'm sure, if you're connected with a home group, if you're connected with food ministry, if you're connected with the ladies, if you're connected in the worship team, if you're connected, a little connection is enough. I'm sure you've got one person around you that you can trust. And if you don't have anyone around you, just come to see the pastors. We'll make our possible to help you the best way we can. And I can assure you, we'll not be shocked of anything. We've seen already and experienced ourselves a lot of things. We're not going to judge and we're not going to point a finger or, what is this? No. Because we are sheep and we are there to help you. And we have have ourselves two people that we can trust. The pastors, we have assistant pastors, we have the pastor board. And I personally have also the worship team, I have the ladies ministry. Sometimes I try myself because I don't want to show. But then, at some point I say, why? Why should I do that by myself? I have people that are praying for me, so I share. And they pray with me. Sometimes I just need to sit down with someone and I just express what's wrong in what's not working. And I just share it. Alone we are weaker. Alone we are weaker. It's just a fact. Get rid of this shame and this false pride that we think we have to act as a happy Christian. If something is wrong and you're not able to get it out by yourself, you're just stuck. You will not be able to succeed in anything in your life. So do something. Look out for help. If your car is broken and you're not able to fix it, what do? You're not just, okay, it doesn't work anymore, we'll just leave it there. You bring it to a garage, don't you? Yeah. You do something to make it work again, so that you can drive again. And the same thing it is for us. If you need help of a psychologist, then look for a psychologist. If you need someone that maybe you stuck, even with this finances, or you need help with papers, whatever. There are so many people in our church that are good and specific things. Look out for help. Cry out for help. And then the third, make time for your relationship with the Lord. We should make it a priority. And I think I can, in this point, I'm always speaking first to myself too. Because as I said before, the enemy is very good in making us so busy. I'm not saying that sometimes we're not doing good things, of course. As pastors, most of the things we do, I would say, is good things. Our plan that we have for the church is good things. We want to do so much to help the church, to help the people, outreach, and cook lasagna for the Esperanza house, and go here and meet so that... But sometimes we just get lost in so many things that when I say, first, Lord, where am I supposed to go? I speak to myself first. Because this is just so easy to get so busy and doing good things, with the excuse of doing good things. But is it what the Lord wants? Are we spending time with Him to just talk to Him and ask Him, where am I supposed to go? What should I do now? And I just shared with you this experience that I had last summer, and I share it because I think it is important for you to understand that even the title of a pastor doesn't make you invulnerable. It doesn't mean that you are safe and protected because you're so connected to God that nothing can touch you. We all shared with you on Facebook and with a lot of people also here in church, we shared that our son in this last summer, he had to undergo surgery of his appendix. There was a very complicated thing because they didn't recognize it here. So he was dragging it on and on and on for a few weeks. And so when finally we brought him in Italy, in the holidays, to the hospital, it was a bit complicated thing. So this whole situation of already, I went there to holidays quite exhausted. I have to be honest, I was really at the end of my strength physically. So not even 2 weeks there, and then we had to go into the hospital. We spent that time in the hospital. And when I came out, of course, you know how it is. There was always this thing, hopefully if the inflammation has to heal by itself, so if it not, he has to undergo surgery again. So always this, okay. At the end of the story, he got home. God healed him quite quickly, like miraculously. He went out after 5 days, even though he has a big scar like that in the middle of his belly. And they were saying us at least a week. He came out after 5 days. But this experience, I tell you, had just shaken me completely. Emotionally, I was just like squeezed like a lemon. Before I was tired physically, now I was tired also emotionally. This feeling of losing complete control. You cannot do anything to save your son. They're in the hands of the doctors right in that are doing surgery. You just can pray that they're coming out and saying everything is fine. And then when he came out, to see him through the process of recovery, I mean, if you're a parent, you know how it is. It's the hardest thing. You would do everything to just change place with your kid, not to let them endure this pain and this suffering. So when we came back home, I just felt, I'm not ready. I told Pietro before, we flew then with Timothy, and Pietro drove with Melody in the car, and before actually we separated, I told him, I'm not ready to go back. I'm just so tired. I'm not ready. I know that as soon as we come home, church is waiting, program is waiting. We have to, it's one of the busiest times from September to December. It's one of the busiest times as we're preparing also the next year. So I was telling him, I don't know how to do it. And Peter was saying, oh, it's going to be fine. Don't worry. It somehow will manage. And so, of course, you go home, you start your program, and you walk, and you try to walk. And many times I was feeling squeezed, like just before I show. I was just, okay, now come on, you can do it. Another little bit. And then I started to share with Gerd and some ladies. I think I just need to share. Please pray for me. I feel so exhausted. I feel like I'm carrying this whole weight. I cannot just let go of this whole experience that I had there. I don't have that strength, and I'm tired as well. So please pray for me. And then it was about, I would say mid-October. I had a nervous breakdown. Yes, you're listening well. I crashed. And I'm honest with you. I crashed. I just was there. I was like, I sat down. That's before. I said, no, I cannot continue like that. I was not able to pray. I was praying my only prayer actually from the morning till the evening was, please Lord, give me strength. Please Lord, give me strength. I cannot do it by myself. Please Lord, give me strength. And it just was like, He was helping me, of course, but something was wrong. I was not able, and thank you, Bethia, for that word. It was such a big confirmation. I was exactly feeling like that, with all these bags on my head, and I was and going forward. And you know, I love my job. I really do. I would not change it for anything in the world, even sometimes it's really hard. So it is not that the problem. I love it, but I was so worn out. Spiritually, physically, mentally, I was just, I couldn't take it anymore. So I'm very thankful that I was able to share at some point with my husband, and I said, I have to go. I have to leave. I have to take some time for me. And we made some arrangements quickly. Within 2 hours, I packed some things and I left. And I went into a small hotel, not so far from us, actually an hour to Germany. I wanted to go somewhere where there is a lake. It was a small lake, but I was by myself. And I went there and I said, well, Lord, it's you and me now. I cannot continue like that. I'm so exhausted. And I cannot walk with this weight on my shoulders anymore. You need to do something. I was not able to really pray that prayer as I was at home. So the Lord, I was just putting some music and I was just worshiping, because sometimes I did not really know the words that I was needed to say. So I just worshipped Him. And I was just asking Him, Lord, please take this weight. You can do all things. And it's what your word says. I declare it in the name of Jesus, that you're taking this weight off my shoulders. You died on the cross for my weight, and for my sin and for everything. I don't have to carry all that around. And I spent 2 days by myself. I even did something good for me. I went to a spa swimming pool, so I enjoyed physically, because I was in pain physically as well. I had my shoulders so in pain, could not move my head anymore. So it was really affecting everything of me. And then I went back home after 2 days. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not that you're going to achieve miracle in what is replacing 3 weeks of holidays, but this weight was gone. This weight was gone. I went back home, said, okay, new energy, let's go. I can do this. Thank you, Lord. And I just felt it just on my way home. First I was like, okay, let's go back again into this. And then on my way I was like, okay, I don't feel this anymore. Wow! The Lord has taken it away from my shoulders. This what was so heavy on my mind, and all this situation that I had to go through. I had to take an action at some point. I was not going anywhere. My family was not going anywhere. I would not be able to help anyone, not the church, not my family, if I would just have been there stuck and just continue to try, because I was sitting down at some point. I took some action. I took time off to spend intentionally with God. I sought Him, and He answered. Amen. And in Hebrews 12, 1 and 2, it says, "And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith." And while I was trying to get my look back on Jesus, I declared freedom and blessings in my life. And this is a quick point. I know that I'm running out of time, but this is a quick point that is important point that I have on my heart since a while. I think that when we say quiet time, it is a misuse of the word. It's not the right word. Try to make of your quiet time a noisy time. Quiet time just means that we're taking time aside by ourselves. Some go in their room, they lock the door. Some they go in their car. I don't know. Some go somewhere else in the nature. It just means that you're taking your time off with the Lord. It doesn't mean that you have to be quiet. In the Bible, where is it? In the Psalms, actually, relationship with God happens out loud. More than 95% of the Psalms express or invite audible words. In Psalm 77:1 it says, "I cry out to God, yes, I shout. Oh, that God would listen to me." It doesn't mean that if you're not shouting, God cannot hear you. He's not deaf, you know. His ears work very well. But it changes something in us when we cry out. There's nothing wrong with silent prayer. Don't understand me wrong. I'm not criticizing anyone that is a more quiet person and is praying. If you are able to engage your heart, if you are able to focus on what you're doing when you're quiet, but it is easier to trail off when you just pray in your mind. Come on. I don't know. I'm the only one that sometimes when I try to pray and I just do this and I try... And then I start thinking of what I'm cooking later. And I'm really exposing myself, am I? But welcome to the club. I think if you're a mom and you're working and you're doing a lot of things at the same time, I'm multitasking. But still, sometimes I pray and I try to focus and I just in my mind, and then, sorry Lord, I think I was about to pray about that. It's normal. Sometimes we just get distracted. And so when we talk out loud, it reminds us that the person we're talking to is in front of us, is there with us. Amen. So it is. If I'm eating Gert for coffee and we just look at each other and we're communicating through I'm not saying you cannot communicate with your face, but you know, it's weird. So to be able for her to understand me, I need to speak to her, and the same way around. So if we're speaking to the Lord, why are we not then speaking out loud what we want? It makes it easier for us. It's not because He needs to hear us louder. It's because we know that if we're speaking God as if He would just stand next to us, we're sure that He's listening to us, and He cares, and He will act. Amen?
Amen.
After all, God spoke the world into form. And we are made in His image. Meaning, the words we actually speak have the power to create. Mm-hmm. Proverbs 18:21, it says, "The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences." So there is a power. I have here big. Speak life. Speak life. The Bible is full of encouragement. Come on, shout out to God. Cry out to Him. And then sometimes we just say, really, I don't want to offend anyone. Please forgive me I'm offending someone, please. But sometimes I just don't understand. Why do we just hinder ourselves to speak out? Our tongue can't speak life because we have been given life through our Savior, the Creator of the world. He spoke and there was light. There was everything created then. So let's start to speak out, speak to our problems when we get into situations where we just think, "Oh, I cannot by myself. God, please, come do something in my life. I declare in the name of Jesus, things are going to change. This is going to happen." Try and start to speak blessing out. So, we conclude. First of all, remember that God is unchanging and His promises are true. So He will never change. If the Bible says that He cares about, as a father or parents for their children, is the same thing. It doesn't depend on the situation we're in right now. He cares, and He will be there. Second, God isn't surprised by anything.
That's right.
He knows everything. So He's not surprised if today we're slowing a little bit down, or if tomorrow we just start to sit down. He's not surprised. And He's not like, "Oh, my daughter, my son." Of course He's sad about that, but He's not just stopping there. He will do something to help us if we cry out to Him, and if we're willing to move our feet when He tells us, "Move." And third, God doesn't waste anything. So the season you're in, though painful or solitary right now, He's going to use it. So even if it was not His choice to make you sit down, He will still use it for something. I hope you have learned a lesson through that sitting down, and at some point you have been doing something. I hope you learned a lesson, my son, my daughter. Even though it was painful, I know. But still, come on, here, grab my hand. We'll do it. Now we keep moving forward. Your prayers, no tears, are wasted on Him, and neither will you emerge from this place without growing stronger, wiser, and closer to Him. And I conclude with a verse in Isaiah 43, verses 18 and 19. But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. This is God's promise for you. Do you not see it? If you are right now in a situation that you have the impression you're stuck, maybe you've not noticed, but maybe now you're starting to, okay. This is God's promise for you. He will make a pathway. Before we read that He is there to teach us and to guide us. And if you have the impression that for right now in that situation it's not enough, reach out to someone around. Don't go down the path by yourself. That's the strategy of the enemy, and we don't want that. We don't want to fall in that trap. And we don't need to do it alone. Reach out for help. And one of the wonders of God's love for us is that it survives our spiritual dry times. It is not depending on how good we have behaved and how well we're doing. Even if we're going through a tough time and you have noticed that you're sitting down for quite a while, it doesn't change the love of God. So at any time, you can do something about it. Change it, stand up and get back to Him. And we will just be there and wait for you, as the prodigal son. So let's just stand as we conclude this in prayer. And not so much for the sake of praying for you, but more for the fact of taking a step